In this quick tip, we'll talk about the Oxford Envolution and an easy way to use two features, transients and sustain, to make loops and percussion really rock. In this particular song, I'm working with just a standard drum loop, but I want to take them a little further. The effect is already in. Let's bypass it. That's the original loop. Bypass it again. You can already hear why I use this plugin a lot. I start with the transients feature. Without getting too fancy, the transients knob either pushes the transients or pulls them back. The sustain is the same thing. It either pushes the sustain or pulls it back, almost into a gate feature, which I'll show you shortly. Let's play with this a little bit. I'm going to start with the default here. You can see in the display that I'm pushing the transients in yellow. Let's pull them back. You can hear a lot more room. Now the sustain. You can see that in purple. You can hear it's almost gating. I'm going to find a nice spot where this loop works in the song. Now it's really creating some good effect. Now, since I like to push Envolution pretty hard, I often use the inflator after it just to pull the output down. Listen to how the kick jumps out now a little bit. Now, another thing I like to do is I like to use multiple loops in songs if I am working with loops. So in this instance, I cut it up, I use the second half of the loop and put a different Envolution on there with different settings. I really want to push the toms in this part. Listen to what that sustain knob does. Now the transients too. Again, this is an example of where you should adjust it inside of the song and listen to how it works. Let's play with this a little bit. Bring it up. Let's just go over here and mute the guitars. Hear a little bit of bass and drum rhythm section. Now we'll just listen to the drums a little bit. Listen to the difference when I pull the sustain feature back. I want the excitement of that sustain up a little bit. Now, another thing I do when using loops is I add a lot of real percussion over them to add some humanization to it, you might say. In this case, I took a tambourine and I just wanted to drive quarter notes. So I'm using Envolution to push that a little extra. It's a subtle touch underneath the snare drum and the kick drum of the loop. Let's add them together. Now the same thing with a shaker to punch the hi-hat through. I have the transients way up on this. Quite a difference. Just building a rhythm track. Okay, now I added another shaker in, which I just want the attack of. You can hear it almost gates the sound, and I put it into an Oxford reverb with a brick wall setting, just to create an effect. There's our nice rhythm section, using Envolution across all of the elements. Put the rhythm section back in. There's the B section. Bypass the plugins. There's no question they help punch the rhythm section through. Adjust that sustain back into the track. There you go, an example of using just a few simple features on the Oxford Envolution.